There's an explosion of interest in Mary in the West because of St. Bernard. Go back to the 12th century. And in the wake of Bernard, all the great cathedrals are Notre Dame, they're all Our Lady. Why is it? Some say because Europe was becoming more civilized, more gentle, so this feminine dimension was coming in. But Mary's been there from the beginning. She's there in the scriptures. Church fathers are very interested in Mary as the new Eve. So she's always been there. I think it's just the very fact that Mary is the mother of God. That always struck people as utterly fascinating, that God would become so humble so as to have a human mother. And if he has a mother, then he has cousins, and he has a grandmother and a grandfather. So I think it's a way of emphasizing the reality and density of the incarnation. God really becomes flesh. And then Mary's associated with, as you say, mercy and gentleness, and she's our advocate. She's the advocate of the human race.
Mary is a pivotal figure in the history of salvation, for she's a bridge between the Old Testament and the New. I know of no other sacred building that better exemplifies the connection between the Old and New covenants than the Cathedral of Chartres, dedicated to Notre Dame, Our Lady. But dedication doesn't capture the full meaning of it. Consult the wonderful book of Henry Adams called Mont Saint-Michel in Chartres to grasp that the medievals saw a building like this not only as dedicated to Mary, not only as Mary's dwelling place, but as a representation of Mary's body. The apse of the cathedral corresponds to Mary's head, the transept to her arms, and the nave to her body. The labyrinth, a winding path inscribed within a circle, is located about 2/3 of the way down the nave, at the level of the womb.
Behind me is the west rose window of Chartres Cathedral, one of the most magnificent in the world. It's the same size and circumference as the labyrinth on the floor of the cathedral. When the light is right, the colors of that window shine down perfectly on the labyrinth. And so it speaks of the incarnation, of the impregnation of the womb of the Virgin by heavenly light. And this association allows us to see more deeply into another aspect of the mystery of Mary. Mary is Zion. She is Israel. She sums up the great figures of this holy people, whom God had prepared over many centuries to receive His word.
She is a daughter of Abraham, the first one to listen to God in faith. She's like Sarah, Hannah, and the mother of Samson, since she gives birth against all expectations. She's like Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, the great prophets who longed for the coming of the Messiah. She is the fulfillment of the Ark of the Covenant and the Temple, since she becomes, in the most realistic way possible, the bearer of the divine word. She's like the author of the Psalms and the books of wisdom and Proverbs, for she, as St. Luke puts it, reflects on these things in her heart. Mary is Israel at its best, faithful, patient, attentive to God's word, and quick to respond to the divine promptings. How interesting that the word haste is used in connection with Mary. St. Luke tells us that after the Annunciation, she proceeded in haste into the hill country. Israel was often slow in responding to God. Mary moves. At the wedding feast of Cana, Mary turns to the servants and says, in the cadences of every prophet, teacher, and patriarch of Israel, And these are her last recorded words in the Gospels. Do whatever he tells you.
Well, I think there's a danger within Catholic piety to express Mary in a kind of a overly cloying, sentimental way, because she's not really a sentimental figure in the Bible. Mary receives this message. She's a canny young woman, who asks the angel this sort of provocative question. Well, how's this possible? And her integrity and intelligence are respected. And then she knows what to do. She proceeded in haste to the hill country to visit her cousin. And then she moves through the history of salvation, with this kind of courage and simplicity. So she's not really a sentimental figure. She's a strong biblical figure. She's the new Israel who follows the divine word. So maybe that would be a danger as we over-sentimentalize Mary. She's the model disciple. Augustine said that. She's the first disciple. And so she's the model for all of us.